that night, I was feeling really happy for myself that day, and I wanted my husband to celebrate me. I wanted him to ask me to go out. I just wanted like to go out somewhere and have a drink, and I wanted him to throw me a parade for all the things that I had been doing. And again, he did say all the right things in a sense, not with a lot of emotion behind it, but he, sent me a text, and maybe even after work, like face to face, he said, I'm really proud of you. You've been working hard and great job. I'm like, okay, great. But that was it. I'm like, okay, what else? Like, give me more, pile on, give me more. And that never came.
Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired and taken care of and special, even if it feels hopeless right now. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm revealing why husbands cheat and how to prevent it. My guest, Sabrina, felt unwanted, unappreciated, and unseen in her marriage, which was lacking intimacy. But then she discovered her power and realized that she had been contributing to their problems. Today, they're so close and intimate in every way. She feels cherished, adored, wanted, respected, and so loved. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. That's coming up. But first, let's tackle a topic that so many women worry about: why husbands cheat and how to prevent them from doing that. It's so painful to worry about being cheated on, and even worse, to have it happen to you. There's nothing more heartbreaking than being hurt by infidelity. It's such a heavy burden to carry, and it makes you feel like a fool no matter what you do. But I'm here to tell you that you have more power than you probably realize to create a marriage where cheating is just not a concern. It's natural to feel scared or jealous at times. I mean, you love your husband, and the thought of losing him that way is devastating. But here's the thing: what we focus on, we experience more of. When I'm constantly worried about something, I can find evidence that it's already happening or that it's about to happen. I used to do this with bills. I'd focus on the upcoming property taxes and how we didn't have enough money to pay them, even though they weren't due yet. Talk about borrowing trouble. Jealousy is similar, even when it feels justified. It's actually focusing on what you don't want to happen. And it works the opposite of the way you want it to. So, what if you shifted your focus? Instead of worrying about the worst, let's talk about how to create a marriage where cheating isn't even a concern. It's not on the radar because your connection is so strong and you're so irresistible that there's just no room for it. Well, here's the number one way to do that: it's to make a positive spouse fulfilling prophecy. So, quiz time here. I'm going to give you three options, and you decide which one of these is the closest match for you. Is your husband, number one, a totally trustworthy and faithful man? Or number two, someone who gives you reason to worry that he'll cheat? Or number three, someone who has betrayed you already and cannot be trusted? Which one do you resonate with? I'll say them again. All right. Number one is a totally trustworthy and faithful man. Number two is he gives you reason to worry that he'll cheat. And number three is that he's betrayed you and you can't trust him. He can't be trusted. Okay, did you pick your answer? Do you need more time to decide before I reveal what this means for your relationship? No? Oh, yeah? Okay. Oh, are you ready to find out what it means? All right. Here's what it means. The answer you picked is your current spouse fulfilling prophecy. It's what you're focused on, and therefore it's what you're creating. It's your experience. It's not possible to have an experience that isn't what you're focused on. And you might be thinking, huh? No, this is not about me. It's about him. And that is what I thought too. I thought that my perspective and my judgments about my husband were just reality, just the facts. I thought that was just about how he is and not how I was seeing him. So I was shocked to find out that when I decided to change my spouse fulfilling prophecy consciously, that I had a completely different experience of him. He seemed like a different guy. That's how powerful my spouse fulfilling prophecies are. That's what a good manifester I am. And it's not just me. Thousands of women I've talked to have also had the experience of changing their spouse fulfilling prophecies and then gathering evidence that their new spouse fulfilling prophecy is true and then having a completely different experience. It's one of my favorite things to witness as a relationship coach because it seems like a miracle when it happens. When she starts, it feels fake and awkward or weird to focus on the new spouse fulfilling prophecy. But then I'll hear her new chosen perspective come right out of her mouth easily and automatically, like that's the new facts. That's the way it is. And that's when I usually will poke fun at her. I will usually say something facetious like, is this the same guy you were married to before the last time we talked about this? That's one of my favorite jokes. Never gets old. That's how I say, congratulations on single-handedly transforming your marriage with a little splash of I told you so, right? All right. Well, one of the best ways to keep yourself focused on the experience you want to have, which is a husband who's true to you, is to decide on a spouse fulfilling prophecy that you want to experience. So maybe it's my husband is a trustworthy and faithful man, right? That could be one. Then you can gather evidence that this is the case, just like you would gather evidence for a judge and jury in a court of law. And you can say your spouse fulfilling prophecy out loud to yourself. You can write it down. You could say it to other people. You could even say it to him. You could express it as gratitude. Thank you for being so trustworthy and loyal to me. That's how you can focus on what you want to experience instead of what you don't want to experience. Now, it takes some effort, no doubt. And it may feel like a big lie at first, and that's okay. I mean, it can be tricky to keep a spouse fulfilling prophecy in the forefront by yourself. I want to encourage you to stretch into it as much as you can, stretch but never tear, right? Or if it feels too heavy and too hard to do it by yourself, or it just seems too ridiculous, that's when you want to get a coach and a community that supports you, that can help you with that. Get the entire connection framework so you have a guide to help you and cheerleaders to remind you why it's so exciting to keep going with your vision and your commitment to having a marriage where you feel secure and special. Okay, here's the second secret I want to tell you about why husbands cheat and how to prevent it. All right, ready? Well, this is what you're going to do instead. You're going to be your most radiant, happy self. All right, you're going to be your most radiant and happy self. So being unhappy is a husband repeller. I know this from my own tragic experience of trying to get my husband to pay attention to me and to give me more affection while I was always making a frowny face to let him know that I was not pleased with his behavior and he should change it or else. And I would definitely never smile again until he did. And as you can imagine, that did not make him come in closer or try to, steal a passionate kiss. It was a whole big thing for me to give up that punishing scowl that I was wearing to get my husband to behave the way I wanted him to. I believed that glaring at him was a good way to get him to straighten up. But I was wrong. It's not. It's a good way to drive someone away, far away. Maybe even towards someone who smiles at them occasionally. Maybe. So, one of the most powerful ways to prevent cheating is by getting happy. When you prioritize your own happiness and radiate joy, your husband is drawn to that. Men are naturally attracted to a woman who is happy and fulfilled, like you probably were when you fell in love. So, whether it's spending time with your friends or or diving into a hobby that makes you feel good, or playing a sport or a game that you enjoy, or expressing yourself through writing or singing or any kind of music or dancing or painting. Do what makes you feel good just for frivolous fun at least 3 times a day. You can give yourself 3 check marks when you do them. I love getting check marks, and I get 3 check marks every time I do 3 self-cares a day like that. When you're glowing and happy, he can't help but being pulled closer to you like a magnet to steel. So if you're angry or cranky or miserable as your default state, like I was, that puts a strain on your marriage. All right, so here's the next part of the quiz. You ready? I want you to think on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you right now? With 10 being you're feeling really happy and 1 being you're completely miserable. What number would you give yourself right now in this minute? Just take your own happiness reading, come up with a score between 1 and 10. Are you below a 5? Then the most important and vital and urgent thing to do next is to get you some frivolous fun. Really. If you're already a 7 or an 8, maybe you want to top off and get yourself all the way to a 10. So to strengthen your marriage and to make yourself happy is a priority, right? Because only happy people have happy relationships. All right. The third thing that you want to do to prevent cheating is to show your trust in your husband. Now, I know this can be hard, especially when your fear creeps in, but trying to control your husband's actions, like checking his phone or questioning his every move or telling him who he can't talk to, that actually creates distance. That's not going to create connection. And shopping for pain is just indulging your fear instead of choosing your faith. It's focusing on what you don't want instead of what you do want. Trusting him, even when it feels really vulnerable and counterintuitive, that invites more honesty and more intimacy into the relationship. You create emotional safety and a sacred trust that he won't want to break. And that's what makes him want to stay loyal and connected to you. Worrying that your husband might cheat or that he has cheated is it's terrifying. And it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to control things. I know. I know. I also find myself tempted to control when I'm terrified too. But by focusing on what you do want, a strong, intimate, connected marriage, you're already taking huge steps towards preventing infidelity in your marriage. When you choose your spouse fulfilling prophecy wisely and you make your own happiness a priority and choose your faith instead of shopping for pain, the idea of cheating becomes irrelevant because the connection you share is so strong. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest Sabrina felt unwanted, unappreciated, and unseen in her marriage, which was totally lacking in intimacy. But then she discovered her power and realized she'd been contributing to the problems in her marriage. Today, they are so close and intimate in every way. She feels cherished, adored, wanted, respected, and so loved. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Sabrina, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so happy you're here.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and just thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my story with you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's start with the bad old days. What was happening in your marriage that wasn't going so well?
Yeah. So, some backstory, my husband and I have been together for 10 years and married for about 3.5. And in our battle days, it was actually a year ago today, well, not today, but pretty much a year ago, that we were just struggling. Overall, we've always been happy and committed to each other, and there was never any crisis, thankfully, that we like no major crisis that we've been through. But in our battle days, we had 3 kids in 3.5 years, so just lots of life change, a lot going on.
What?
Yeah.
That's
I'm gonna
cool.
get emotional because brings back a lot of feelings. For any other moms listening, you know that that postpartum period just kind of does things to you. Um, I wasn't happy with myself. I was kind of struggling to see my husband in a. I was struggling to like I appreciated him, but I didn't feel like he appreciated me. Even though I had evidence now looking back that I could have focused on. I'm going to try to put myself back in that mindset where I was before I knew the skills. So in those days, we were just distant. We were, like I said, overall happy, but I felt like unseen. I had lost 40 pounds in a year after I had my third baby. And it was a big thing for me, big long journey that I had been going through for pretty much a year, working on that fitness journey. And the whole time, my husband was encouraging me. He was, saying, "I'm so proud of you. You look so great." But probably not as often as I wanted to hear it, and probably not in the ways I wanted to hear it. And really, I couldn't even hear it because I didn't feel pursued by him still at that time. I, I'm a busy mom of 3 and I was working too. So I was kind of taking care of everything around the house, which has always been the case. But at this time, I just kind of was feeling like really unappreciated for it all. And it's hard to say that now because now that's not the case. But I remember down to the day, it was August 29th, that had marked a year of my fitness journey, my transformation, and what have you. I was feeling really proud of myself that day. I was just feeling really happy about the progress that I had made, not just physically, but I felt like I was making mental progress at that time too, just in the sense of making time for myself so that I could have a more calm temperament as a mom. And I didn't know how I was contributing to the lack of intimacy that we were experiencing. But that night, I was feeling really happy for myself that day. And I wanted my husband to celebrate me. I wanted him to ask me to go out. I just wanted to go out somewhere and have a drink. And I wanted him to throw me a parade for all the things that I had been doing. And again, he did say all the right things in a sense, not with a lot of emotion behind it, but he, sent me a text and maybe even after work, like face to face, he said, I'm really proud of you. You've been working hard and great job. I'm like, okay, great. But that was it. I'm like, okay, what else? Like, give me more, pile on, give me more. And that never came. So I kind of just flew off the handle, not to him, but I had to get out of the house. I knew that I was going to break down, and I didn't want to do it to him because at this point we had the same fight over and over. I feel like lots of couples experience that, right? You have the same kind of blow up fight every so often. And we were definitely in that. I didn't want to repeat that this night. So instead I put the kids to bed, and then I said, I'm going to my best friend lives right down the street. Thank God for her. I went to her house and I just lamented to her for like 2 hours on her couch about everything I was feeling. And sometimes it feels good to have that girl talk and to get it out and to vent, right? But I did not feel better after letting it out. I felt what was really I didn't love this part of it is that my best friend's husband was there too. I mean, he lives there too. I'm not going to ask him to leave his house, right? And I couldn't stop the verbal vomit that was coming out. So he heard all of it, and I just left. And he was, offering some of his male perspective, trying to make excuses for my husband, trying to explain to me that he's not all bad, right? His intentions are not bad. And deep down, I knew that his intentions were not to hurt me, but I just,
Well,
I
hurt.
didn't have the frame of mind to focus on the positives at that time. Um, so I left my friend's house just feeling so guilty and icky for having just complained about my husband for the past 2 hours to these people, and he wasn't there to defend himself. And I knew that I had a very committed man, and I knew that my mindset was wrong. And my whole life, I've always wanted to be a wife and a mom, like ever since I was a little girl. And I always knew that I'd be a good mom. I knew that that would come naturally and easily to me, and I'd be fulfilled by that. And I can genuinely say that that has been true. But I never, ever gave any thought into what it would be like to be a wife. And I had my parents had a good marriage. They're still together. They've been married for almost 28 years. So I had a good model. I just kind of thought it would naturally be easy if you find the right person, right? And so the next morning, I knew that I needed to find something to reframe my thinking to where I could finally be grateful for having this life that I've always wanted, right? Like I have it all on paper. I should be so happy. So what's wrong with the way I'm thinking? Why can't I appreciate it? And so now hopefully I can start to stop crying, and now we get to the happy part. Um, that morning I Googled like podcasts about how to be a happy wife. And I found your podcast and never turned back. I've been binging it every day since. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, oh gosh, I really hear how it sounds lonely. I just hear feeling not appreciated, not desired, and also I hear such accountability in terms of spending 2 hours complaining about your husband and then feeling icky afterwards, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is so common. And there is that feeling of ick. I remember feeling icky too after doing the same thing. And yet it almost feels like, well, what are the other options? This is my reality. This is how it
Yeah.
is, and it hurts. And I have to get it out. I've got to complain about
Yeah.
my husband for 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
in front of other people. And yet part of you didn't enjoy uh, feeling disrespectful, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it just didn't offer any solutions. I didn't feel like getting it out solved anything for me because I mean, I was glad that I didn't have that fight with him and, say the same things that I had already said to him and already been asking him for that had not changed, or, maybe they would change for a week or two and then we're right back to the same old stuff. And I just knew that, I don't know, for like the skills were deep down in my brain somewhere back there, the baseline of them. I knew that my perspective was wrong. I knew that I had
Ah,
things to be grateful for, and that it was up to me to reframe my thinking, because yes, there's never been a way out. Like divorce has never ever been an option for me, and for my husband too. He tells me the same thing. I can only speak for what's in my mind and heart, but that has no, I mean, so to me it's like, well, this is my reality, like you said, so how do I make it a happy one for the rest
wow.
of my life, because I'm not going to leave him. So
I love that. And I really love the part where you had the awareness, like I'm living my dream right now. This is what I
yeah.
always wanted. And
Yeah.
why can't I appreciate it? It's so accountable, right? Instead of just
Mhm.
being like, obviously it's him. He's not paying enough attention. He's not giving me enough compliments. He's not doing a good job. And I kind of really don't even hear that, even though I hear there were fights and there was some distance. Um,
Yeah.
and I hear the pain for sure. I hear that it was
Mhm.
very painful.
Mhm.
So you got a hold of the podcast though. You
Mhm.
found it and you listened, and then what happened?
So I found it, and I started to write at the very first episode and just kept going. I had it in my AirPods all day. I had my kids with me, and my kids are young. They're 5, 3, and 2. So they're, at my heels, mommy, mommy, all day.
All day.
They need me all day. And like I said, that's part of my life. I love that. Didn't want to replace that. But I was so addicted to what I was hearing on the podcast. I walked around with it in my ear. I would listen to it as often as I could. That first day, I felt, and I've talked about the skills in the podcast to some friends and my mom and, some women in my life. And the first time I explained it to my best friend, she's like, well, didn't you feel a little bit annoyed, like that it's all your fault? Or like, didn't that make you feel bad? Like, well, at first, like maybe a tiny bit, but mostly I just felt so much hope that finally I had some kind of answer or insight into why these things were happening. And you were telling me that my husband loves me and wants to make me happy, and he's not a monster. Like, I didn't pick the wrong person, which deep down I knew, but you finally gave me, like, it just clicked. The words that you said, and I just listened to the first episode again this morning with Coach Kathy because I tried to get myself back in there. The words that she uses just, I mean, it hit me, and it gave me hope and a path forward, steps to take. And when Coach Kathy said that she's never seen the skills not work when practiced. And I was like, that can't be, like, it sounds too good to be true. But at the same time, if you're saying this and you've been doing it for 19 years, then I feel like there's nowhere to go but up. So I might as well try. And that first day, like, I mean, I saw an immediate reaction and change in my husband when he came home from work that day. I had been binging the podcast all day, right? So I'm picking up little things. I don't think that I ever heard a specific, like, you list out the 6 skills plainly, right? It was just kind of, here's this one skill I'm going to talk about, and then here's how this wife used it. And it was kind of all, so I didn't have like an outline per se, but I was living off of the stories and how I could relate to them, and then the hope that they offered. And so I thought, okay, there's little things that I can try when he gets home. I'm not going to go huge, but I was so fired up to try something. And I also felt so bad because I had finally realized how I had been making my husband feel, and the battles that he had to come home and face every day. And I didn't want to, that's not what I wanted to be causing. So I will never forget the look on his face, Laura, when he came home from work that day. Mind you, this is the next day after I had kind of stormed out of the house and let him know that I was sad and that he had hurt me, and I was disappointed that he didn't throw me a parade or, take me out to dinner. So trivial looking back, but whatever.
Yeah.
So
The pain was
he
real.
gets home.
Yeah.
It was real. It was very real. He gets home, and I'll never forget the look on his face. It just looked like he was already defeated and defensive and like ready for battle, like just not excited to come home and face what was waiting for him. Ugh, so embarrassing. But instead, I smiled at him, and not just a fake smile, like I smiled with my eyes too. Like, I was genuinely happy to see him. I was grateful for all the things I'd been ignoring about him this whole time. And I was grateful that he was still there for me despite how I was treating him too, Anyway, so I smiled at him, and I could see he was confused, but he gave me like a confused smile back. And it was just, we did our normal routine. I'm making dinner, he's dealing with the kids. It's kind of a normal night, and there's still that distance, right? Because it doesn't just naturally dissipate. It does a tiny bit, but not all the way. But I was just trying to be goddess fun and light and, not bring up all the misery because I had already gotten it out. Like, I was past it. I just wanted to move forward. I had new perspectives. And so we kind of make it through. It's a normal evening. He's a little bit more talkative, but still not really. Like, he's still hesitant, right? He doesn't want to give me a lot because in those days, we would just walk around eggshells or walk on eggshells around each other and, tiptoe around our feelings, not want to set each other off, start a Cold War. Like, it was very much just, let's communicate as plainly as we can, like just logistics kind of thing. Um, so then it comes time to get the kids ready for bed. And that's a process, right? With three
Oh, yeah.
tiny ones.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole evening, there were times where like I would feel a little bit of feelings start to bubble up, like sadness or whatever. And so I was listening to the podcast all day about self-care. Like, okay, what can I do right now to do a little bit of self-care? I decided to go paint my nails because like my toenails needed repainting, or maybe it was my actual nails. I don't know, but it was regular nail polish that it takes a long time to dry. I had to set it under the UV lights to if you stop it too early, if you smudge it too soon,
You wreck it.
it's ruined. You might as well have
Yeah.
not even started.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that while my kids are running around, and one of my little daughters runs in the room and starts to kind of get in my way. And, it was going to be a struggle I was just going to have to deal with that. I could feel the annoyance bubbling up. But my husband came in and just took her out of the room, like silently. He didn't say anything. He took her out. He shut the door. He took them all to bed and got the bedtime process started. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to thank him for that. So I didn't stop right away. I made myself sit there and finish, let them dry completely, even though it took more time than probably he would have wanted because the kids needed to go to bed, right? But I'm like, okay, I'm just trying this. I'm just kind of going all in. I'm going to experiment. So I did that, and then I finally went into the bedroom with all three kids and my husband, and I said, thank you. I wanted to not just say thank you, but I wanted to explain the thank you too, and like what it did for me, because that's what I was hearing from the podcast. So I said, thank you for taking Maggie out of the room, and that let me have enough time to let my nails dry fully, so now they won't smudge. And like, sure, that probably doesn't mean much to a man. They don't know about painting your nails, but it was just important to me to just try something. And so that was that whole first night. Is I tried like basically three skills, I think, or I don't know, the smile campaign, just kind of being light and fun, and then expressing gratitude. And yeah, from there, every day on, like I just kept experimenting and stumbling, and I saw immediate change in him. He started opening up more. He was smiling at me more. The next day when he came home, he had a smile on his face. The very next day, it's like, it was mind blowing to me, the immediate effect that the skills have. And just this tiny little things that I did. I didn't do anything monumental, but that gave me hope and life to keep going, because I'm like, okay, I feel like he was just dying for me to show up with some light instead of. I remember in some of our State of the same blow up fight, he would say like, God, can you just pretend to be happy sometimes? Like, just pretend. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, of course I'm pretending. Like, that's every day. But I didn't hear at the time what he was saying, and now he's right. I was just always grumpy and focusing on the negative and bringing that energy to every interaction, and that's not inspiring for anybody.
No, I mean, I just love you were determined, you were inspired, very motivated in one day to turn your marriage around. And you did it. You did it. Like, you smiled, you did your nails, you expressed gratitude and told him, you know, basically you said you were my hero for getting Maggie out of the room.
Pretty much.
And by the next day, he's coming home with a different look on his face. And it just sounds like a lighter environment at your house.
Very much so. It's
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Even our friends and family have said that multiple times, that the way that we interact around or with each other is so different. And we throw a lot of birthday parties and we have get-togethers in our house. We like to host our friends and family. And my mom this morning said that our home is just so comfortable. Like people come and just we have such a good time. There's not that feeling of tension that was there before. It's so different.
Wow. Now, and did your husband ever say, okay, so what happened to you? Because this is a big difference, right? From how, because he looked confused that first night. Uh,
Yeah. So for about 3 months, I had been steadily practicing the skills, experimenting, stumbling along the way. Not every time that I used the skill was perfect, but that being said, I wouldn't take back a single instance of trying something on. Like, even if it might have felt uncomfortable in the moment, or even he didn't like it in the moment, like some of the I can'ts, or some of the apologizing for being disrespectful, some of those were weird to him, but I still was glad to have done it. It was a step in the right direction in the overall journey. And it was kind of conditioning myself to be more comfortable with the skills, which was conditioning him. So throughout those 3 months, he's responding. We are really happier than we've ever been. Like, even in the beginning of our relationship, I mean, I wish every girl was raised with these skills, because then the beginning of every relationship could feel like this, right? But yeah, it was better than new. And I hadn't told him that I was doing anything necessarily, but he could see the changes. And I mean, people around us could tell that things were different. I'll tell you in a little bit about an awesome date and like whole weekend that we had within this time. But yeah, so 3 months of doing the skills, rocking and rolling, we're thriving. And then our wedding anniversary came in December. And again, we're in a great place, right? So, and flowers have always been big to me, but I transparently don't receive them very often from my husband. And it used to be a big point of pain for me. But with the self-care, Laura, you taught me that I can buy myself flowers and it still makes me happy. Like, as long as I have that intention for it of, do I want the flowers because I want them for my husband, or do I want the flowers because I like to have fresh flowers on the counter? Well, if I can make myself happy by putting them on the counter myself, then I'm going to do that rather than wait around for the next occasion for my husband to maybe get me flowers or maybe not. And then I'm disappointed and then we fight. I was just done with that.
love it.
But the expectations part is really hard for me to let go of.
Easy. Yeah.
So I went into this day trying to not have expectations. Our anniversary fell on like a random Tuesday, so we weren't going to go out. And my birthday just so happens to be 1 week after our anniversary. So they were both on a Tuesday. We were going to just celebrate in the weekend in between, right? And we had already said that. And when we were planning that, I said, yeah, that makes sense. But on Tuesday, on our anniversary, I would still love to have a nice dinner at home and maybe some flowers. And he kind of laughed and he said, huh, yeah, fat chance. And like he was joking. And I laughed too. I'm like, yeah, silly me to, or I don't know what maybe not fat chance, but something like that. And
Yeah.
I joked back because I was being goddess of fun and liar and these expectations, like, yeah, probably not. It's whatever. So the day comes and he did not bring me any flowers home. And I was trying to be dignified, but I had to honor my feelings. Like, I didn't make it a big thing, but he could tell that I would, like, he felt that immediately without me even having to make it a big deal. Um, and so we go throughout our normal evening routine, dinner routine, put the kids to bed. And then at the end of the night, we usually come together. Either we sit outside or in the garage somewhere, have a drink, play games on our phone, like, just have that time at night. And so it came time for that. And I didn't really want to go out there, Laura, to be honest, because I was sad, but I didn't want to ruin our anniversary. I was still happy with him overall. I didn't want to, just let my sadness take over the whole day and the whole 3 months that, the great time we've been having. And it's just flowers. So anyway, I go out and I'm sitting there. I'm kind of talking to him. I'm not my normal bubbly self that I am at this point after working the skills for 3 months. But I'm also like, he could just tell that I was a little bit hurt or disappointed, or I don't know. So out of nowhere, he breaks the silence and he says, I just want to say that over the last few months, all of the changes that you've made, and I don't know if he used the word improvement or something like that, but just all the changes you've made and the things you've been doing have been really amazing and inspiring to watch. And I know. And so I kind of poked and prodded because, mind you, I'm still working out at this point, and I also I was practicing the skills, so I was kind of firing on all cylinders. Like,
Yeah.
the house was immaculate, the kids were so happy, I was so
Okay.
happy, I was hanging out with girlfriends, I was working out, I was like singing, playing music all the time, I was doing well at work. Like, he and I were doing awesome. I mean, it was great. So I kind of poked. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I wanted to know what he was noticing
Yeah.
specifically. Was
You're
it the
like,
skills, or was
come
it
on.
just,
Yeah.
what it, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, details. So I said, do you mean like at the gym or around the house? Like, what do you mean? He goes, well, yeah, that, but with everything, he said, with the kids and with us, he said, we're so much happier. He said, I'm so much happier. And yeah, he said, it never occurred to me that you needed to or that you could even make all these changes. And I'm just blown away by it. And I know. So I started crying. I'm like, you have no idea how much I wanted to hear that, because then I kind of let the cat out of the bag and I told him all about your podcast and what I've been doing, and not all about it. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to know everything.
Yeah. He does it.
But yeah, I finally told him that I'd been
Hmm.
actively doing things to work on myself and to work on our marriage. But really, I tried to explain to him that it started out as something to fix our marriage, but it very quickly, I mean, within the first week, became clear to me that I needed to focus on it for me. And when I have that mindset is when we are doing our best. If I get in a place where I try to control him with the skills, it's not so great. So, yeah.
Wow. What an amazing moment. That must
Mm-hmm.
have been like so gratifying to have him acknowledge you and celebrate you for
Yeah.
this is a dramatic change. This is like, I mean, yeah, I want to cheer for you, Sabrina. Like you made a touchdown. Like you won the big game, right? Like you took those skills from the podcast and just ran with them. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have you even read the book at this point? Had you? Or
So I bought the book and the journal maybe a month into finding the podcast. And to be honest, I have not made it all the way through the book or the journal, just because I'm a busy mom. It's
you're
hard to
busy
sit down
mom.
and,
That's
and read and
right.
write. But the podcast, I can pop in my ear. I can play in the car.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm listening to it
Awesome.
anytime I feel like my cup needs to be filled and I need inspiration.
This
Yeah.
is great. Yeah, he didn't and that without that's been yeah, it's gotten you a long, long way. And you're practicing the skills by yourself, it sounds like. It's just you and the podcast, pretty much. And a book and a
Pretty
workbook, but
much. Pretty
that's
much.
I
I
mean,
feel like,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I
so
feel like all the,
impressed.
I
I'm
know.
so impressed with you. And I
Thank you.
also, it sounds like you also, you were using some other skills in there too. I heard you say you apologized for being disrespectful to your husband, and
Mhm.
it was a little awkward. It sounds like. Tell us about that.
So that's the skill that I was probably dreading the most. It's the one that took me the longest to get out, because I knew that I had lots to apologize for, but it took me a while to get there. And also, I think it's important to note for other wives that it's a long journey, right? Some days your husband will respond beautifully. Other days, maybe he's having a bad day and it's not gonna, maybe your efforts don't seem like they're going as far. And in those times, it can be really hard to choose the dignified route and to not slip back into your old ways, or for me at least.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
the first thing that I apologized for being disrespectful for was so silly. Is about dog poop, which is, it sounds so funny, but I don't know. One morning I was kind of huffing and puffing around because on weekend mornings it was always a point of contention that he got to sleep in, and of course someone has to get up with the kids, and of course it's going to be me. And since the beginning of time, that's been a thing. And then also with the dog poop, I've just always grown up with my brothers, and my dad would do that. Mostly my brothers. Like, that's a man's job. I never wanted to do it, but when we got our puppy, it was, my husband said, like, if you want, that's your puppy. If you want him, you're gonna, be responsible for him. So I'm like, okay, well, I want him. So anyway, this whole time I'm mainly the one responsible for taking care of the dog, and I don't love it. But I never expressed that to him, though. I never told him just how important it was to me and how much it affected me and how low it made me think of him, honestly, for him to not take on that responsibility, which is horrible to say now, but those are my feelings.
Yeah.
So on this weekend morning, the kids have me up early. I'm outside picking up dog poop, which I'm not thrilled about. And I'm listening to your podcast in my headphones while I'm doing it. And my husband's in the room, like, snoozing away, and which he works so hard. He deserves to sleep in a little bit, but like I do too. I don't know. I was just in a resentful mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It can
while
happen.
having your podcast in my ear, mind you, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's not
No.
always perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I come inside for something, I don't know, maybe some water, and I don't know, I think maybe the kids were making noise. And so my husband says, like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And I just threw some attitude at him. I'm like, I'm picking up dog. Like, I don't know exactly what I said, but it was seething with just attitude and resentment. And like, I'm not happy right now, and it's your fault.
Yeah.
When he's just, just waking up. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. So then I just leave it be. I go back outside, still listening to your podcast. And then I'm like, God, okay. I think the episode I was listening to, the wife said, well, do I want to be the kind of person that wants to apologize and doesn't, or the person that actually apologizes, right? Like, if I'm recognizing right now that I was just disrespectful and then I choose not to apologize, like, where is that gonna, it's not gonna get me anywhere. It's just gonna keep me in the same cycle. I'm like, I have to start at some point, and I might as well start with this. So I went back inside and I said, I apologize for being disrespectful when I gave you attitude about the dog poop. And then that's all I said. And he just kind of was like, okay, like, I don't know. He didn't know what to say. It was just so silly that I had to start small like that. But then it got easier to apologize for the bigger things. And then it made sense to him that I wasn't just saying it just to say it. Like, I really recognized when I needed to apologize.
It's a great story. You have great stories, Sabrina, about, and it's so relatable, right? Because I love that, like, you're already listening to the podcast, and still you're like, I'm resentful, and I'm giving him attitude, and then and you keep listening to the podcast, and then you're like, oh, I do want to be that woman that apologizes, that is accountable and is humble, and
Mm-hmm.
and creates peace in her home.
Mm-hmm.
And you got there. So very
Mm-hmm.
inspiring. I love it.
Thank you.
So what is your marriage like now?
It's amazing. It's night and day compared to what it was before. And when I would listen to the podcast about, we get to this point and the wives would explain how great it is, like it's as good as you can stand it. That's how it feels. And if I were to put myself back on my friend's couch complaining about all those things, not a single one of them would be true today. I feel so pursued, so wanted and seen and appreciated. And he gives me gratitudes like all the time. He just lifts me up and lets me know how much he sees and appreciates and values what I do for us and for our family. And for me, like, we enjoy being around each other. He likes to see me happy. He likes to make me happy too. Yeah, I don't even think about the fact, like, if he's asking me on dates or not. It's like, I can't tell you if that's happening more often than it was before, but it's not, well, it is for sure, but it's not something I ever think about because we are intimate regardless. And like before, I think I used to put so much importance in my own mind about physical intimacy and being wanted and pursued. And, I wanted him to want me and to, just kind of take hold and like be passionate. I wanted some kind of passion from him. and I got like none of it before. And now it's like, it's
You're
a
like,
lot.
that's enough.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's a lot, and it's
That's too much.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I will never say it's too much, but it's just amazing that all of that was in there. It just, someone had to go first to kind of bring it out of us, or bring it out in us. And it's more than just like our relationship is so just on cloud nine, and we both wish that everyone, that all of our friends could have marriages like this, but it takes time for people to be ready to, you know, create that for themselves. But our relationships with others, with everyone else in our life, has just drastically improved. And I mean, for me individually and for my husband individually, we've both gotten very significant promotions from at work in the last year. We're both in like high level management positions, so we're in charge of a lot of people. We have to kind of handle a lot. There's a lot of people that rely on us at work and then at home too, and we're just able to handle it so gracefully. And the feedback that he's gotten from his work blows me away. Like, they used to tell him, you're a little abrasive, you can't talk to people that way. I mean, he works in a man's job. It's like alpha male, alpha male, alpha male. Like, anyway, now they've kind of had to tell him, like, you need to push your guys a little bit harder. Like, you're being a little bit too nice. Because before it was like he was always fighting, he was always on edge, right? And my mom said the same thing about me, is before I was always on edge. I was quick to react, quick to just kind of snap at whatever. And now we are not like that, individually and together. And it's like, I feel like you've unlocked a whole new level of life for us that I didn't even know that existed or was possible before. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Congratulations. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's just so moving. It's so inspiring. And you are so courageous. I'm so impressed because I mean, I want to say you make it sound easy, and I get that it wasn't, but you found the fortitude. You found the commitment and the determination to
Mm-hmm.
get to this next level of life
Yeah.
for you. And it sounds like you single-handedly changed your whole family, and then like even your work lives have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mom is noticing this. I'm imagining it's probably impacted your relationship with your mom, and maybe like you're saying every
Mm-hmm.
other relationship that you have.
Yeah.
So you are like this beacon of light that is a model of what's possible in the world if you are taking care of yourself, being grateful,
Mm-hmm.
being the girl of fun and light. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm very impressed. It's just such a delight to get to hear about what's happening at your house. So,
Yeah.
so and I just want to go back to for a second, you mentioned it about your friend saying, don't you feel bad because it's all on you to change your relationship? And I mean, I mean, probably now, maybe, I don't know, does that come up for you ever? Like, why did it all have to be me?
Sometimes, if I'm in a bad moment, I'll be honest, Mother Nature has her clock, right? And around that same time every month, I can get down in those old thoughts and feelings, and I have to choose what evidence I want to focus on and create the experience that I want to have, right? So when I start to have those feelings, I just remind myself that, yeah, maybe that's not ideal, or maybe I can tell myself that's not fair, but it's up to me. Like, I'm the only person that I can control, and the only thing that or it's up to me to take control of that, like, it's a waste of my time and energy to focus on what he's doing or not doing, or if he's taking initiative to change or not. My thoughts and feelings on the matter are not going to control him. It's irrelevant. It's just causing me more pain and misery. So in those moments, I just focus on the fact that someone had to go first, and I'm proud that I did. And it's,
Yeah.
at the same time, someone had to go first with making the negative environment that we were in before, right? Like, you've taught me that as women, we are we set the tone of our relationships and our environment. And that has helped me in my family and in our home of our little family of 5, but with my in-laws, my this is an amazing story, Laura. My husband's parents have been divorced for a long time and they're both remarried. So I have 2 sets of in-laws, I suppose. Um, my husband's mom and my husband's dad separated when he was very young. I want to say 5 years old or something. So they've been apart for a very long time. Not a great, they haven't been close. Like they don't really communicate. And now that we're all grown, their kids are grown. There's not really been a need to, besides maybe they would be at the same birthday party for the
Yeah.
grandkids, for our
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And in the past, I mean, they're cordial. It's like maybe a wave from across the room, and that's really about it. Maybe a 2-minute conversation of, niceties, but that's it. But this past birthday party that we had for my girls, it was almost a month ago now. They had like an hour and a half heart to heart conversation in my kitchen, and we're crying to each other. I was crying a little bit about, they got out like 20 years worth of stuff that had been unsaid, and it's like they couldn't stop just letting. I've never seen my father-in-law cry. He's a manly man. They broke down in my kitchen, just like about, just they were able to have that conversation. And for me, it was a big moment for me to know that that never would have happened before, because of the environment that that environment, that comfortable environment that exists now, was never even possible before.
So there's so much emotional safety at your house. Your in-laws worked out 20 years of resentment and
Yeah.
wow, and connected and had this really tender conversation.
Yeah.
And Sabrina, I give you all the credit for that. Like you did that. You created this environment where this is how it is at your house. This is the way we live. There's so much love.
Yeah,
Wow,
there's so much love.
amazing.
And I want to
Amazing.
say too, with the kids, like back in the battle days when I was quick to snap at people, kids are better wife mirror than a husband sometimes. Or God, they really just hold a mirror up to me every
Yeah.
moment. So unfortunately, that meant that I would catch them snapping at each other. I would catch them saying old things that I wasn't proud to be teaching them. Like, but these days, they repeat gratitudes that are amazing to come out of the mouth of a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old. Like, my son will walk around trying to do things for me, and he'll say, like, "Oh, here, mommy, I filled my water for you, so you don't have to do it." Or, I've done this, so you can only worry about this. And my 3-year-old daughter walks around saying, "Thank you for picking up my clothes, mommy. I appreciate that. Thank you for breakfast, mommy. I appreciate that." I'm like, so to go from hearing them repeat my bad things and
Wow.
cringing, to now I hear them saying these beautiful things. I'm like, oh my God, it feeds the fire to keep, like, to
Unbelievable.
makes me want to be as dignified as I can to show them that.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I love that. He's your little hero. Yeah, your son's your little hero, and your daughter's a little gratitude angel.
Hmm.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and earlier you mentioned that there was an incredible date weekend or something that you were going to
Oh,
tell me about.
yeah. So my husband turned 30 in November. So I found the skills early September. He turned 30 in November, and then the big, like, revelation cat out of the bag moment happened in December. So here we are in November. I had always been planning to throw him a surprise birthday party for his 30th. My mom did it for my dad, and I was like, oh, that'd be so great. So I'd always known that I wanted to do that. And it was already in motion before I found the skills, because it takes a while to plan. I was making sure to tell people, book out this weekend, don't say anything. So it was already in motion, but I was just kind of doing it just to do it, really, when I started planning it. But then I found the skills and was working that, and we were so happy, and I was just so excited to, like, give him this. And it wasn't like, oh, here, look at what I've done for you with a surprise party. I wanted him to see a bunch of everyone come together from lots of you know, different aspects of his life, his work people, his family, his friends, like people that I don't necessarily have relationships with. I made sure to have everyone there because I wanted him to know and see how loved and appreciated he is by everyone in his life, not just me. Like, I really was trying to take myself out of it. I wanted him to have that for him. But so the surprise party was planned for Saturday night. We had a very nice date night on Friday night, and to him that was like our big date, like celebration for his
Yeah.
30th birthday. Like we
Yeah.
went to a nice
Totally.
steakhouse. It was a
Yeah.
good, yeah, it was a big like 4-course thing. I got all dressed up. Because I wanted him to think that's the big moment, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there wasn't a surprise party coming as far as he knew.
That's right. Oh,
So we're at this date, and first of all, he is just going on and on about how beautiful I look. And I mean, he's like holding my hand, he's being romantic, he's, putting his hand on my back. And like, just, I could tell that he was proud to be seen with me that night. And we never want to sit on the same side of a booth. We kind of make fun of couples that we see that are out, that are doing that. But this night, for some reason, we wanted to. So we sat together on the same side because we just wanted to be near each other, and we also wanted to like have a good people watching vantage point. Um, but it was just such a nice place, good atmosphere, good like date feelings. Then he says, mind you, this is for his 30th birthday. It's not anything about our relationship. It's not an anniversary. It's just like, it's supposed to be about him. But he says, so we've been together for almost 10 years now. What are some highlights for you? What have been some highlights? And I'm like, oh my God, really? Do you really want to know? Because I could go on and on because I'm in this feeling of gratitude, right? Secretly still. He doesn't know about the skills. Ugh. So we proceeded to go just back and forth for the whole date, the next hour and a half, one story after another, kind of in chronological order of like major moments that happened for us in our relationship. But it was awesome for me to tell him my perspective on things, and then for him to hear, or for me to hear his perspective on moments that maybe weren't super big to me, or maybe meant something different to me, or just thoughts that I never knew that he had about, and all good, happy, positive things. I'm sure the waiter thought that I was crazy because I'm crying but laughing. Like, it was just such an intimate time, and it was like a scene out of a movie. Like, I just could not get enough of it. Yeah.
wow. Awesome. That sounds amazing. What a
Mhm.
great life you've created for yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just get really inspired hearing about it. Sabrina, I think everybody wants what you have with their in-laws crying in the kitchen and these like a scene from a movie date night where or birthday celebration
Yeah.
where you're feeling beautiful and desired and adored and special and you're feeling so successful as a mom because your kids are repeating what you
Mhm.
say and it's a
Mhm.
delight to hear them say those things. So what's your tip for somebody who's maybe stuck where you were, like on that couch complaining to the friend for 2 hours and feeling unwanted and unappreciated, undesired, and there's no intimacy? What's your best tip for her? How
Ugh,
should
I
she
have so
bridge the
many.
gap?
It's hard to pick just one. I guess my first tip would be to take a look at what you can control and to focus on that and harness that. It doesn't have to be beating yourself up about the things you've done to contribute. It kind of doesn't do any good to focus on that, but it does do good to see the ways that you could have done better and then act on that. And I think it's just important to start with working the skills for yourself. And um, I wrote down that self care is so important to have the overall endurance to see this journey through, or see this transformation through. Because if you're not full on your self care, it's really hard to practice the rest of the skills genuinely. And it's hard to feel good about doing them if you're not already full.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Even if it means committing to doing your nails that take a long time to dry and you have three little tiny people saying, Mommy, 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 right?
Yeah.
And what do you think you'd say to Sabrina if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
Mm. I would say, wow, I've thought about this question. I don't know why I'm struggling to find an answer right now. I would just say that you have so much power that you haven't realized yet. And these skills are so empowering. It's the perfect word for it. I mean, I have friends that I've shared the skills with. Some of them are receptive, some of them are not, right? One friend said, like, I just can't see myself sucking up to him. I just can't do that. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to. I don't suck up to my husband. If anything, I mean, I know for sure that I have so much more power in our relationship and in our home now than I did before. Not control. There's a difference between power and control. I don't have control. And if I try to, that's when I kind of lose my power, you know? It's a really delicate dance, kind of. I love that the skills work together so well. And it's a constant journey. It's a constant experimentation of things. I just love to see the effect that you can have on people and the world. I mean, that sounds crazy, but really, I mean, it's had such a ripple effect that I can't deny it anymore. Like, little tiny changes you can make have such a ripple effect, and it's empowering to witness that. It makes you want to flex that muscle more.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love it. You sound like a future coach to me, actually, because it sounds like you're telling everybody you know, and that it's rubbing off on them, and they are seeing the transformation and loving it. So I just want to congratulate you and give you my Best Wife
Oh my
Award.
God.
You
Oh, thank
transformed your
you.
family. Yeah, I'm so impressed with you've been so courageous and so vulnerable. In telling your story today, you've gone to a long, long way towards ending world divorce by sharing what's possible and being so inspiring. And I just love hearing about your beautiful family environment that you created. So you are richly deserving of this award.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. I can't believe that. This was one of my crazy outlandish desires in my journal a year ago is I would love to be on the podcast, but I want to feel authentic in the skills and like they're a part of me and I can speak to them genuinely. And I do feel like I'm at that point. And yeah, I would love to be a future coach one day. That's definitely in my plans. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see it. And I just love that that was your vision for yourself. And what a great vision. And for everyone who's listening, what a great vision to have for yourself that you're going to be on the podcast too. Yeah, Sabrina, you showed what's possible. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed hearing your story.
Well, thank you. I mean, oh, I'm going to cry saying this, but yeah, you've unlocked that new level of life. And thank you for teaching me these skills that I can teach to my daughters. Talk about home court advantage. Like, regardless of what kind of relationship or marriage they end up in, they're going to know how to make themselves happy, how to identify what they feel and what they want, and how to just take control of their lives and make themselves happy. It's a skill that every girl needs, and not every girl is taught. So thank you for giving me that to give to them.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that they're learning that from such a young age. It really is. Yeah, what a blessing. Such a
Yeah.
miracle. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Feel very encouraged.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you, Laura.
Have you fixed a problem in your marriage, big or small, using the six intimacy skills? If so, I would love to hear all about it and have you as a guest on the Empowered Wife podcast. If you're willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce and pay it forward by inspiring other women with your story, go to lauradoyle.org slash podcast dash guest. That's lauradoyle.org slash podcast dash guest. And let me know that you're willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce. I can't wait to meet you. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. On next week's podcast, I'll reveal 2 secrets to stop doing all the work in marriage. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I prefer you would politely look away when I'm parallel parking, please.